Hey folks, welcome to the break room. So, I'm putting this review here because the movie's been out for a little while, and it's been out for long enough that I suspect it wouldn't get a ton of traction putting it on the main channel. I think because I do have a tendency to not always get to movies that I want to see in a quickly enough where the review feels in any way topical. I wasn't that far off with this one, but I think I might start doing reviews like that here, because, part of the idea of this channel is to have a place to put stuff that I want to talk about, but may not get the views I kind of need to keep the other channel steadily growing. So I guess overdue reviews might end up being a thing that end up happening here. But yeah, I've seen Knives Out. I actually went and saw it with Liz. If I had known that I was going to get to it so soon into the new year, I would have waited on doing my top 10 movies of 2019. And I kind of wish that I had known I was going to get to. I thought I wasn't going to get to this until it was available on home media. But alas, I have now seen it, and it would have made the top 10. So, sorry, Shazam fans, that would have been bumped off. It probably would have landed upper middle, 5, 4 sort of range. It's really good. It's a really good movie. I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna talk spoilers. If I feel the need to, I'll give you the heads up, like I try and do. But the thing is, it's just really clever in the way Rian Johnson tends to be. I don't know if I'll ever devote a video to this. I'm not sure it's worth it. But having watched it, and to be fair, I haven't seen every movie Rian Johnson's made. I still haven't seen Brick. But I've seen The Brothers Bloom, I've seen Looper, I've seen The Last Jedi, I've seen this. And I really do like his approach to stories and tropes and the way he works around and with them. Now, that might sound odd, given that I did not like The Last Jedi, but I'm reminded of something that I mentioned in some of the videos that I made talking about that, which is, if you're going to deconstruct something, you kind of need to be working in the world of pastiche and things that will remind you of something, but not in that world specifically, because most of the best deconstructionist work is not done with the actual thing it's deconstructing. It's done in parallel to it. Watchmen, originally Alan Moore wanted to use existing characters, and DC loved the pitch for Watchmen, but they wouldn't let him because they saw what the story was and went, that is going to break these characters and they will never be the same again. So no, you can't do it with the existing characters. You need to create some new ones to do this with. And that's kind of why I feel like I'm totally down for Rian Johnson making a Star Wars movie. I kind of wish that they had put him on something like Rogue One or Solo, or just jumped to the trilogy of original films he was theoretically going to make that we haven't heard about forever, and let him do that rather than work with the characters that, were pre-existing and we already had investment in. But that was a tangent. But the point being, his approach to subversion and sort of, you go into a setup where you're like, oh, I know what this is. And for a while, that is what it is. And then partway through, I'd say a little bit shy of the halfway mark in this case, something happens and you're like, oh, okay, so this isn't quite what I thought it was. It's not like a total 180. It's not like it changes genres or anything, but it just completely drops one of the major conventions by taking something that you would have expected to happen in the story, but just not when it does. And then once that happens, you're like, okay, I don't know where we go from here. And then you watch the rest of the movie from there. Cast is great. I mean, cast on this thing is stacked. Daniel Craig's getting a lot of the recognition, and he's great. Don't get me wrong. But I actually want to single out the actress who plays Marta, who is probably the closest thing to a main character. I'm hesitant to say she's a POV character, but she's a lot more of a POV character than any of the other non-detective characters are. And she is a caregiver for Christopher Plummer's character, who is the person who is dead. That's not a spoiler. It's a suspicious death, murder, mystery kind of story. Like, yeah, somebody's dead, and you know it's him if you've seen even the basic trailers. The trailers were really good at not giving away where things were going and what was going on. Chris Evans is also having a lot of fun. You can tell he's relishing the chance to kind of cut loose and be a bit of a dick, after being Captain America for so long. So, like, he's just having fun with this. And Christopher Plummer's great. Like, the whole cast is great. Some of them get more screen time than others. I will say, though, like, it's really well balanced in terms of who these characters are, because the vast majority of these people, because most of these characters are this one family, the children and grandchildren and extended family of Christopher Plummer's very wealthy murder mystery author. They're awful. All these people are awful, but it does a really good job of picking which of these awful people we're going to get to know a little bit better and which ones we don't need to know anything more about. Because, like, there's this 16-year-old kid who, like, as soon as other characters start describing him, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And we don't spend a lot of time with him because once you see that, you don't need to. And there's this one literally pearl-clutching wife character who, like, has maybe 3 scenes where she speaks, and she did not need to talk anymore than that, because, like, I know exactly what your deal is. We don't need to sink more time into you. And the movie knows that. And I love the house that this is set in. It is covered in just stuff. These weird little statues, these bizarre paintings, and these weird little figurines on, like... In a murder mystery, you're pretty much always going to be looking around going, okay, what's the thing where the clue's going to be? What's the slightly weird prop that'll come back? Everything's a weird prop in this. Now, I'm going to say something that sounds like I'm undercutting it, but, all right. This does a really smart thing to avoid the trap of not being as clever as it thinks it is. And it doesn't avoid that trap by being like, oh, the cleverest thing ever. It just knows how clever it is. And the lightness of tone, the more playful tone of the thing, means that the admittedly clever things that it does feel right. Because if it was more serious, if the whole thing was more straightforward and a little bit more po-faced, which it could have been, as far as the structure of the story goes, then a lot of the twists and the little... slightly different things that are done, or in some of the payoffs, wouldn't have worked for me as well, because a lot of them, I'm not going to say I figured out what was going to happen, but I spotted a lot of things that were going to pay off. I spotted a lot of things like, okay, that is something that's going to end up being included. I don't know how, I don't know what that indicates, but I know that was important. I'm going to take a note of that. Ooh, that thing that person said, that's going to come back in some way. So it did mean that when things started happening, I'm like, oh, I remember that, which means that's going to play into that. Cool. But I wasn't super ahead of it. But because it's not deathly serious in its presentation, then it's not going, ooh, and twist, and we fooled you. Because then, if that was the feel of it, I'd be sitting there going, no, you didn't. Instead, it's going, and hey, we did something a little different. Isn't that fun? And I'm sitting there going, yeah, it is fun. So it picks just the right tone to make the level of clever that it is work very, very well. This movie was just a lot of fun. And I'm not going to dig into spoilers because I don't want to pick the plot apart, but I want to single out one thing, or I guess a couple of things. I want to highlight some of the things that Liz really liked about it, and... because I think the things she pointed out, I'm not going to say were things that I missed, but were things that, like, I was like, yeah, no, you're right. And I wouldn't have thought to mention, but they are things that you need to know the movie to understand why these things happen. And some of these are like, so, like, if you haven't seen it, like, this couple of spoilery things. Okay. So, Marta is ultimately the main character, because halfway through the movie, we figure out who killed Harlan and how and why and what happened. So instead of that being the big end reveal of like how everything happened, halfway through we know what happened. But then all of our investment is in Marta, and is she gonna get out of this okay? And that's really fun to watch. And she's a great lead character. She is so sweet and so endearing. It's wonderful that she wins not by out thinking or like being sneakier than the people around them. I mean, she does something very clever at the end that is a moment of sneaky, about as sneaky as she could get away with, given the fact that lying literally makes her puke, which is that's just a fun character trait. But the fact that the reason she comes out on top is because she's just a good person. And the people that she's dealing with expect her to be as bad as they are. But because she's not, that difference is why she's okay at the end. So that's great. And Liz, it was so cute. Liz actually choked up a little towards the end where the detective, he's reassuring her, like, you did the right thing and you knew the right thing to do because you're a good nurse. You know, and taking her hand and comforting her just with that. And, you know, Liz is next to me going, oh. She choked up a little. It was really sweet. And it's just great. And there's quite a bit, I was going to say subversive. It's not subtle, but it's well realized commentary on privilege. Because, I mean, here she is helping out this family where none of them even know what country she comes from. They think they do. They all name different countries where they think her family is from. And there are these even the nicest ones are still prepared to screw her over. They'll feel bad about it, but they're still prepared to screw her over because they think something about them intrinsically means they deserve what they have and she doesn't deserve it. And it's just nice that she wins. It's a really good movie. It's a really smart movie. It's a clever movie. Liz is declaring it her favorite movie of 2019. And it definitely would have made my top 10 if I'd realized I was going to see it this early. I didn't think I was going to get to it for months. That was a good movie. Knives Out. If you saw it too, I'd love to hear what you thought about it. And, yeah, you know the stuff. The likes and the subscribes. And thanks for stopping by. That was just fun to talk about. That was a fun movie. So, I guess I'll see you next time you need a break.